everyone, welcome back to the Half Soybean channel. My name is Sharon and today we are doing something really exciting in my opinion because I was able to get my hands on some vintage tea towels and I'm going to see what I can turn them into. One of the main inspirations behind today's project is Selena Sanders' work. I'm sure you've seen her on Instagram and I think her work is absolutely beautiful. I also saw this lady, she was in a news article I think for making a dress out of Kmart tea towels, and my mum actually has those tea towels at home and they are very cute, so I can understand why she wanted a dress from that fabric. I've got 7 tea towels here with me today and I will show you them one by one. Some of the designs do double up. First up, we've got this Asian kind of landscape. It's very pretty. We've got these love heart ones. I'm not really sure why I picked up this green one. I think it was a bit of an impulse buy because it doesn't really go with any of the other color of tea towels that I picked. Then I've got this really cute measurements one. It just tells you how to like convert different measurements and things. You can't really see the writing on the blue version, but it's kind of clearer on the orange one. Sugar, butter, coffee. Then on the bottom, it's got this watering can, it's got this beer, I think that's supposed to be milk. And I love the contrast of the blue and the orange, so I think they're gonna be sleeves. Finally, I've got these sparrows. I'm not really sure what this bird is. Maybe it's a tit warbler, not sure, but very cute, and I've got 2 of these. The colors are kind of quite cohesive, like the browns and the orange tones are quite uniform across the towels, so that's really nice. With the top itself, I'm thinking that I'm going to pattern hack a McCall's pattern. Let me just grab it. It is the infamous McCall's 7969. I did make a video on following this pattern to make a dress. I'm not sure which of those videos are going to be uploaded first, but already uploaded or will be uploaded. I think it could make a really cute tie-up wrap top. I'm doing some preliminary planning and pretty much I want to turn this into a wrap top, as I said, and I'm gonna lengthen this bodice a little bit. I've also just put down which of the tea towels I want to use for each portion. So I think this large piece and the back piece should be the Asian print one, and then each of the sleeves will be measurements, and if there's any parts that I can't fill with just the measurements tea towel, I'll fill in the blue measurements with the blue hearts and then orange measurements with the birds, because I want this in a wrap to be a birds one. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm also gonna try and use every last little bit of scrap because I feel kind of bad cutting these up, so if there's anything left I'm gonna try and make a little pouch or I don't know, something similar, so stay tuned to see what I make with the scraps as well. This is the back piece and I've just folded the Asian one the Asian themed tea towel in half, right sides together, and I'm thinking I'm just gonna add 10 centimeters onto the bottom of the body pieces. This means that I can't use the full tea towel for the front panel. I'm gonna have to attach something along the bottom eventually, so I'll figure that out in a little bit. In my front panel, the original piece fits, but now I'll need an extra like 12 centimeters in a different fabric so I can add it to the bottom of this piece, but I'm just adjusting it so that I can have the bird, both the birds in the middle of this print. And so I had to figure out what I wanted to do for that extra length for the front panel. And here I was just trying out different patterns and arrangements. All I knew was that I wanted to do some kind of patchwork situation rather than just filling it with a chunk of another part of a towel. Then I just copied the front panel that we already cut out to create the other side of the front panel, and that would just be tucked behind the first one. So I cut that from the bird print tea towel. And I was just still contemplating what would be the best fit to fill in that missing part for the first front panel. It was time to cut the first sleeve, being the blue measurements tea towel, and because the sleeve pattern is so wide, I used the blue hearts to fill the extra corners like I had planned earlier. And then the same thing for the orange side. I used the bird towel to fill in any of the missing corners. So that's the piece of the top that we didn't have enough fabric for. So this is the patchwork situation that I've kind of come up with, and I think I'm going to start with this and see how it looks all attached together. Very rude of my hand to keep obstructing the view here, but it was pretty straightforward to attach the little pieces of fabric together. Once sewn, I pressed each of the seams flat. And I also had to put additional pieces widthwise because it became quite small as I sewed every piece together. Then I attached that little patchwork section and the front panel together. Okay, I'm very happy with this piece, but I think I need to just grab some plain fabric, line the back just so I don't have all these raw edges. I used some spare fabric I had from another project and cut out some lining. Then right sides together, I attached the inner vertical side and the bottom only. I flipped it to the right way out and top stitched those edges. The rest of the edges I basted as they would be attached to other pieces of fabric later anyway. Now we've got all our panels, so we want to lay right sides together and attach the sides. Also, people in my last video were telling me a hack that you can just tie the threads to change the color of your overlocker thread instead of rethreading the whole thing, but I don't think I tied it tight enough because they all ended up just untying and I had to rethread it anyway. Okay, time to attach those three pieces that make up the one sleeve. Just place right sides together and sew down in a straight line. Then I added 2 rows of basting stitches and gathered the bottom of the sleeve off camera. I attached the binding to the bottom of the sleeve, but decided to use blue binding with the orange sleeve and vice versa. Then I matched up the sleeves with the bodice right sides together and sewed it all together. After that, I applied the binding to the back neckline of the top and also the front neckline, being the diagonals of the top. But I did not attach the shoulder sleeve part down yet. And this is because I gathered the shoulder of the sleeve to fit into the remainder of the binding after I had attached the neckline pieces. Then I folded the binding over and top stitched from the right side, but stopping about 10 centimeters before you get right to the ends. This is because before you get to the very end, I wanted to wedge in some ties in between the binding for some clean looking ties. Then I top stitched the rest of the binding down from the right side again. It is day 2 today, and I just want to catch you up with what happened with this top. So I've just added these ties. I don't know if you recognize these, but these were actually from that yellow like cutout dress that I made a while ago. And then when you open it, it's got an extra set of ties to keep the top together on the inside. So you just have to attach that based on like your own body shape, where you actually want the top to tie, because it's gonna differ from person to person depending on where your bust sits, I suppose, and like how tight you want to close the top as well. Now I do still have 2 full pieces of table tea towels left over. One is the green hearts and the other is a sparrow, and I'm not sure what I want to do with the sparrow yet, but I think with the green one, I'm gonna make a little apron, and I kind of saw a cool little hack on Pinterest, so I'm gonna try it out and see if it works. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Like, Pretty cute, right? The green I think is pretty cute. And then it's got this like square moment here, and I want the apron to have front pockets. Even though it's not intact, I have quite a large portion of this blue tea towel left over as well. So I want to kind of like pattern match if I can, and kind of make 1 or 2 pockets where possible. I still need to figure out what kind of ties I want. That is a later me problem. To kind of get a basic apron shape, I'm gonna very conservatively take about 2 inches from the end of here so we can fold it over and sew it down later to create channels for the ties. And then for the vertical length, I'm gonna do about 12 inches because that's kind of where my waist sits naturally. I cut along that diagonal, but in retrospect, I definitely could have been about 3 inches from the top and maybe about 10 inches in length. With the blue hearts towel, I just salvaged a rectangle where I could to make the pocket and cut it out. I folded the edges down twice on all sides so we have no raw edges, and I already made a stitch along the top edge as that side won't be attached down. I pinned the other 3 sides matching the hearts to the green towel. Starting from the outer edge, I just sewed down and pivot around the corners but leaving the needle in the fabric. Then I did another stitch about 1/2 centimeter from that outer stitch, so there are now 2 rows of stitches along those 3 sides for extra strength. To create the diagonal channels, I did 1 thin fold first and then a thicker fold about 2.5 centimeters in width. I sewed along that inner side to create a channel. I cut up the remaining blue hearts towel into as many strips as I could so I could make some ties with that fabric. Placing the strips right sides together, I sewed along those short edges and did that multiple times to create 1 long strip. Then I folded it in half, right sides together, and sewed down 1 side. You want to flip that right side out, and then we're ready to feed it through the channel. Start on one bottom end of the channel and then loop it all the way to the other side, making a loop when you get to the top so that your head can fit in that loop, I suppose. I've done the apron. It turned out much better than I anticipated, so I'm excited to get on to the next project. So super fast. Got the little pocket here as well with the tie, and it just like connects as one like length of fabric for the neck and tie, so it's super easy. Right, so I've got some decently sized scraps here and I want to try and use as much as possible, so I think I'm gonna try and figure out some sort of patchwork situation. And I also have this tea towel still. It's a bird design, and I don't know, I'm kind of stumped on what to do, but I'm just gonna start doing the patchwork and then pray that ideas come flowing into my brain.
3 hours later.
My pile has gotten very small, and I'm just working through the last bit of that pile, and then I've got 2 kind of big-ish sheets, and I can either connect them together or I don't know. I'm still thinking about what I want to do with them, but I'll work on this pile for the time being. Got a bit of a dilemma. I've got my patchwork piece. It's actually quite a big rectangle, and what's gonna make my life really easy is if I just go ahead and make a tote bag, because then I can just utilize this whole rectangle and have no waste from this. But I cannot get the idea of making a pair of shorts that are matching with the top that I made. So I'm just like thinking, like, do I just go for the shorts? Even though it's gonna be like a bit of a hassle because I'll have to line it because of all the seams and everything. Or do I just go the easy way and do the tote bag? Of course, my overachieving self wants to do the shorts. So I just grabbed a pair of my own and I'm gonna trace them out, and I tie-dyed these, by the way. Isn't that so cute? Anyway, yeah, hopefully I get a little bit of a strip left over. I really want this to be like a back panel, and I'm just gonna leave an inch of seam allowance on like all the sides, except for like here actually. So I just traced my shorts on that patchwork piece. and cut it out so there was plenty of seam allowance. I used that piece to cut out a short piece out of the bird tea towel as well. Then I just used some spare fabric I had to make another short panel. Since I need a lining for these shorts, I also cut out the same pieces in a thin fabric I had lying around. I assembled the lining of the shorts first, sewing the side seams, being the hip side and the crotch side. Then I tucked one pant leg into the other, and then we should have a crotch line looking like this, ready to sew. But I realized later on that I shouldn't have done this crotch step yet, so probably leave your individual pant legs for the lining. I added a strip of the leftover patchwork to one plain short piece to give a little bit of color. Then it was time to assemble the rest of the outer short. I assembled the same way as the lining. Then, right sides together, I placed the lining shorts over the patchwork side of the shorts so I could connect around the leg holes first. It was as I was trying to flip everything back to the right side when I actually realized I never should have connected the lining crotch first, but it was a pretty easy fix. In the meantime, I understitched the lining so that it wouldn't flip out of the shorts. I gave it a press, but ultimately decided it needed another top stitch anyway. I got back to the lining crotch part where I had to seam rip and just re-sew it down so everything would flip to the right side correctly. Then I cut out some strips to create a separate waistband, and I created a loop that would exactly match the opening of the shorts that I just made up. I folded it in half, wrong sides together, and sewed along the edge, leaving about a 10cm gap. I fed in some elastic into the loop, and when it popped out to the other side, I combined the ends of the elastic, and I also closed up the gap in the loop. I shuffled the fabric around so that everything was even, and then put in some stitches along the top edge and also the middle so that the elastic stays in place. Then I just attached it to the shorts and overlocked that raw edge. It should look something like this on the inside. Okay, so here's a final look. An awesome thing about this matching set is that you can pair it with different things and it still looks great. I'm so happy with how the top turned out. I think the placement of the different tea towels are really working in my favor here. The patchwork I did for the front turned out so cute as well. I really like the daisy flowers as they really pop out from the rest of the browns. As I said, the underside of the sleeves have been finished with extra tea towels. I also used contrasting color binding for the sleeves, which turned out very lovely. I like that there's a full image on the back panel as well. I think that the pattern hack turned out really well. I love this wrap top. I love the shorts too. They turned out so interesting. There's that one huge patchwork panel, and I also used a remaining strip of the patchwork to put a little bit of color and emphasis onto the plain fabric as well. I also managed to use up the bird tea towel to make the other pieces. These shorts are so comfortable. I reckon they will be really good for the beach or the pool or just any summer's day. The apron was a really easy little hack, so easy to do. I reckon it could be a really fun and quick project for yourself, or it could make a really nice gift as well. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon in the next video.